In November 1947, the United Nations decided to conduct general elections in both South and North Korea to establish a unified nation and dispatch the United Nations Temporary Commission on Korea. However, Kim Il-sung and the Soviet troops in North Korea denied the entry of the United Nations Temporary Commission on Korea. Dr. Seung Man-ri could no longer postpone the nation's founding. On August 15, 1948, he established the Republic of Korea, a free and democratic state. The United Nations then recognized the Republic of Korea as the sole legitimate government on the Korean peninsula. Afterwards, in North Korea, Kim Il-sung established his own separate communist government, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Ultimately, the division of the Korean peninsula was driven by Kim Il-sung's and the Soviet Union's deliberate refusal to participate in UN-supervised elections, as they sought to establish a separate socialist government focused solely on the communization of North Korea. The breakout from the Chosin Reservoir stands as one of the great epics of the Korean War. The breakout from Chosin Reservoir and the subsequent Hungnam port evacuation represent one of the greatest humanitarian missions in military history, embodying the U.S. military's dedication to humanism. The Battle of Chosin Reservoir saw 17 Medals of Honor, 70 Navy Crosses, and numerous Distinguished Service Crosses awarded. This was the highest number of decorations awarded for a single battle in U.S. military history. In the U.S., the Battle of Changjin Reservoir is referred to as the Chosin Battle. This is because, at the time, Changjin was marked on the maps using the Japanese pronunciation, Chosin. In the U.S., veterans who survived the Battle of Chosin Reservoir still meet as part of the Chosin Field, keeping their legacy alive. In the U.S. Marine Corps, the few surviving heroes of the battle are called the Chosin Few. It has become a byword for the highest honor bestowed upon veterans. The communist forces committed atrocities and mass murder of civilians. They indiscriminately massacred civilians who cooperated with the South Korean government or opposed communism. Over 128,000 civilians were killed, and when including the injured and missing, the total reached 474,000. In Hamhung, 65 villagers who had welcomed South Korean forces were summarily executed by firing squad. The communists committed the atrocity of throwing bodies into wells. The invaders massacred civilians indiscriminately, regardless of age or gender, in front of the bodies of their children, husbands, and family members killed by communist forces. The women stood in shock, their tears long dried. The heartbreaking scene stirred an uncontrollable rage in the UN and South Korean troops. Elderly mothers, struggling with their frail bodies to find the remains of their dead children or family members, sifted through piles of corpses. Many found the mutilated bodies of their loved ones, brutally butchered by communist forces, and collapsed to the ground in despair, wailing and weeping. Countless mothers and wives fainted or lost their minds in grief. Of a total of 1,957,616 UN allied forces, 1,789,000 were US troops, accounting for more than 91% of the total force. The US military had a somewhat unique strength compared to soldiers of other nationalities. They always maintained a positive and optimistic attitude and never gave up, even in harsh combat conditions. Even in the worst situations, they never lost their smile, accepted hardship with grace, and showed a strong tendency to overcome challenges while being considerate of others. They made do with biscuits and crackers for meals, and to save time, ate canned sea rations while marching. The U.S. soldiers were so resilient that when thirsty, they would fill their canteens with water from roadside puddles. They quickly adapted to their environment and conditions. On April 14th of that year, General Van Fleet assumed command of the U.S. 8th Army. General Van Fleet, as a part of his strategy to counter the Chinese Army's human wave attacks, implemented an effective artillery tactic known as the Van Fleet Day of Fire. General Van Fleet increased the artillery's ammunition supply rate by fivefold. This effectively allowed the artillery units to use almost unlimited ammunition. General Van Fleet revised his strategy to counter the Chinese Army's human wave attacks, employing a carpet bombing operation that devastated every location the communists occupied or could potentially use. Facing the Soviet Union's overwhelming firepower and the Chinese Army's massive human wave tactics for the first time, General Van Fleet chose to weaken the enemy's combat strength by using concentrated carpet bombing against a relentless Chinese advance. The U.S. 8th Army played a pivotal role in defeating the invaders during the Korean War. General Van Fleet's proactive, strategic leadership and decisive commands, grounded in strong military principles, further enhanced the Army's effectiveness in battle. With U.S. fighter jets, nicknamed MiG killers, dominating the skies, the U.S. Air Force maintained air superiority. Despite regulations prohibiting father and son from simultaneously deploying abroad, Lieutenant Jimmy Van Fleet, the only son of General James Van Fleet, voluntarily submitted his application and served in the Korean War. On March 14, 1952, Lieutenant Van Fleet arrived in Korea, and 5 days later, he attended his father, General Van Fleet's 60th birthday celebration. Unbeknownst to them, the brief moment of standing shoulder to shoulder while cutting the birthday cake would be the last time they spent together. This is from a letter Lieutenant Van Fleet sent to his mother when he volunteered for service in the Korean War. This letter is dedicated to a soldier's wife. I hope this letter will not be wet with your tears. Now it's time for me to support my mother's husband. My father is fighting on behalf of America for the right of all people to live without fear. It is time for me to join him in that fight. Mother, please pray not for me. Instead, please pray for my crews who have been called up to defend our country in this time of crisis. They have wives who anxiously wait for their return. Some have not yet had the chance to start a family. I will do my best. That has always been my duty. Goodbye. On April 4th, 1952, Lieutenant Van Fleet climbed into the cockpit of a B-26 bomber, his beloved Pintail 26, and took off for a bombing mission over the Suncheon region of North Korea. Lieutenant Van Fleet arrived over enemy military installations and tanks, coordinated with headquarters via radio, and precisely struck each target one by one, punishing the invaders. Lieutenant Van Fleet was returning to base after completing his fourth mission when his plane was attacked by MiG fighters and crashed. Lieutenant Van Fleet Jr. ejected from his B-26 bomber after it was shot down, but was ultimately declared missing. Despite receiving the news of his son's disappearance, General Van Fleet remained unwavering and fully committed to his duties. The staff expanded the search in an effort to locate Lieutenant Van Fleet. General Van Fleet halted search operations in enemy territory, understanding that such missions would require further sacrifices from Allied forces. He stated, "Other operations are more important than finding my son." Even in the thick of war, the American soldiers never lost their smiles. As they removed the dog tags from their fallen comrades, they held back their tears. They risked their lives, going through the depths of hell to rescue a fellow soldier, even if it was just one. They volunteered for the Korean War to defend South Korea's freedom, giving everything they had, pushing forward again and again, fighting battle after battle. The US-ROK alliance combats the lingering virus of communism within the country and serves as a powerful deterrent against war internationally. South Korea's prosperity today would have been impossible without the United States and UN forces. South Korea, a model nation for overcoming war and defending democracy and freedom. The US-ROK alliance stands at the core of freedom, peace, and security. The lessons of the Korean War must be reflected upon time and again, passed down to future generations as an enduring legacy for all of humanity. Now, so that swings where children laugh and play are never destroyed again, South Korea's steadfast steps toward a brighter present and future will never falter.